Hello, my name is Ekua Agha, and if you have the program, you would know what I do, so I'm just going to be very brief about this. I'm writing a doctoral thesis on post-colonial studies at University of London, Birkbeck College, and I also lecture across some colleges of higher education, currently lecturing at Birkbeck University as well, but I also teach in colleges of further education. And in those colleges, I see a lot of issues that actually have affected women on the public health and social care programs that I lecture on. And today, what I'm going to do is actually look at the historical reasons for the effect of globalization and how this is actually connected and affected women around the world. Because when we look at globalization, people completely think it's probably just an Asian thing, it's an African thing, or it's an American thing. And today, what I will argue that basically it is a historical problem and an issue that actually affects women around the world. And one of the first things I would like to do is actually look at that concept in itself. What is globalization? And the whole idea and the reason why we find globalization a problem in itself is that that definition is a male definition in itself, because it is actually defined from a very male perspective. And I would look at Krista Wicheric's book called The Globalized Woman, who has argued that women have not been taken into account when this concept was coined. She cites Philip Engel's book, L'Homme Mondial, translated into English as the global man. So basically, when actually you're looking at globalization and the people who are defining it are actually talking about globalization using male adjectives as well. So that in itself is problematic, because when we're talking about global men, we're not actually classifying men and women. It's actually looking at human beings from a male perspective. So that actually puts women in a very precarious situation from the get-go. But in spite of eliminating women from this important concept, I will actually show that both sexes are affected. So you're not putting women in the definition, but women are affected because of the shift in the global market. And basically, because of the way production has shifted around the world, where countries have taken their productions to low-wage countries. So this means that manufacturing companies like Nike, Adidas, Primark have now basically taken women's work from developed countries into what we call the low-wage countries, and have now decided to champion women into their work organization. So what we're now saying is that women are working. It looks like we've actually championed globalization. Women have jobs. But what we're now familiar with is the images of women in exporting factories which produce t-shirts, shoes, and microchips. Low-wage jobs in this manufacturing industries. So that in itself has had real dire consequences on women around the world. And Wicheric actually says that we have now become the call girls of the global market, labor market, the call girls. Men have now seen women as this sort of objects that they can now use into making money. So the reality in the new job market is that women have now been degraded as objects, and we're not subjects anymore. We're now being seen as machines for these production companies. For example, we're not only a source of cheap labor, but victims as well of the patriarchal system in both Western and non-Western worlds. Because we're now badly paid, the male society also believes that men are still the family breadwinners, and women are only supplementary earners. So there is a disparity in spite of the fact that we are actually working. But because of the issue of globalization and the male perception of women in the job force, we are still being undermined in terms of the kind of jobs we do. Women around the world obviously see this as a real concept. It's not just an idea, but real, because of the way it's actually affecting them. So when we say globalization, it's not just a concept, but it's actually real. Because when it's real in the sense that we see how that has affected us. The female textile workers from Upper Lithuania in Germany are now losing their jobs to women in Bangladesh. Filipinos are cleaning vegetables in Kuwait. Brazilian prostitutes offer their services around Frankfurt's main railway stations. Polish women are looking after people at rock bottom prices in various parts of Germany. Women in the Caribbean are keen commercial entries for North American banks. So you see the shift in the way the global market has moved around and how women around the world have now been affected based on male domination and the perception of the way they see us. Low-wage earners, we're not primary earners, we're just supplementary earners. The effects of globalization as a result of that has also now had this impact on what we call our physical, intellectual, social, and emotional needs. Because not only are we, of these women, majority are subjected to appalling working conditions, they also have few rights, meager pay, and no social security or sustainable livelihood. The long working hours that women are also working are also doing damage to their own health because of this hourly rate work that they have to do. So those are the kind of issues that I know that will be teased out in the various speeches today. So I'm not going to go too much into details, but just sort of like giving you the framework through which we're going to be talking today. And one thing I would like to also point out that the ones who are most likely to be affected by globalization for women around the world are young women, and also from lower class backgrounds because of lack of basic education. Okay, I'm going to be passing out a handout, and I'm sorry if you're not probably able to have information, but please, if you can share as well. Basically, looking at the whole idea of education, because that is one of the key issues that can also be used in terms of making women aware and also empowering. I don't like to use the word empowering because women are already empowered anyway in their own rights as human beings. But how do we actually make them aware of the kind of voice or the kind of or the kind of potentials they have for the future, as Priti had already said. Women have all this, inbuilt in us biologically, and the kind of, but we also need that support. And education is always one of the key issues. And it is estimated that just one additional year of secondary schools can boost a girl's future earning. One additional year, because a lot of these women from lower class backgrounds around the world have to drop out of school for all kinds of reasons, and most of them have to go and work. And when they go and work, they are asked to leave later on because they wind up getting married, or they have to leave the job force again when they have children. And then the cycle of poverty starts all over again. And what these organizations just do is go back and pick younger women as well who have low education and put them onto the job market, and then the conveyor belt starts all over again. And that's where we want to, I would like to say that, education and support in this area, will eliminate or would be able to sort of cut down some of these issues that we've already spoken about. Okay, thank you very much.